This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Monday, November 9th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, former Vice President Joe Biden is ready to take the oath of office, but the president's team is getting ready to go to court over multiple cases challenging election results. A big victory for the pro-life movement as 14 new Republican women win seats in the House of Representatives. A major new study reveals a surprising finding about the number of Christian voters in America. We'll tell you what it uncovered. And remembering Alex Trebek, the legendary Jeopardy host who died this weekend. And we're going to hear what he had to say about the show's fans. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with the presidential election. While Joe Biden is already getting ready to take office, the president and many Republicans are saying not so fast, as the president's team is ready to file lawsuits of voter fraud. Del Hurd is on the story.
The mainstream media may have already coronated Joe Biden president-elect, but the legal challenges over alleged voting irregularities begin today. Joe Biden is moving forward as if the election results are final. He and Kamala Harris will have a briefing with their transition COVID advisory board this morning.
I'll work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as those who did. This is the time to heal in America.
But Donald Trump is ready to fight it out, tweeting, "The big city machines are corrupt. This was a stolen election." His lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, claims he has more than 50 witnesses to voter fraud in Pennsylvania alone and will have 4 or 5 cases filed by the end of the week.
For violating civil rights, for conducting an unfair election, for violating the law of the state, for treating Pittsburgh and Philadelphia different than the rest of the state, which is an equal protection violation, which goes under Bush v. Gore. I mean, this is something that just has to be addressed.
Missouri Republican Senator Roy Blunt, for one, is not calling Joe Biden president-elect yet.
I said on Friday, I thought it was time for the president to turn this discussion over to his lawyers. Time for the lawyers to make the case that they have, both in court and to the American people.
President Trump still has a path to victory, and that path is to count every single legal vote that was cast. The media does not get to select our president. The American people get to elect our president.
Meanwhile, Biden's slim advantage and the loss of at least 7 Democrat seats in the House undercut any claims of a mandate. Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey called the Republicans' down-ballot success a rejection of the radicalism that has seeped into the Democratic Party.
The woke left had a major setback. I mean, nobody thought we were going to pick up seats in the House. Nobody thought we were going to hold the Senate, which I think is likely.
West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says the results show Democrats scared many voters.
They were scared of this socialism that was thrown out there by a radical part of the so-called left.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says if there was rampant voter fraud in this election, it must be rooted out to save the integrity of our voting process.
If Republicans don't challenge and change the U.S. election system, there'll never be another Republican president elected again. President Trump should not concede.
Back in 2000, Al Gore was given his day in court. We should give President Trump his day in court. Let the process unfold.
The president is planning a series of rallies in states he's contesting. And just like in 2000, it may be that this election will be settled in the courts. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
And with us now for more on the legal challenges in the presidential election is Professor and Associate Dean Brad Jacob of Regent University School of Law. So let's begin with one important case that focuses on how the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court extended the state's deadline for mail-in ballots. Why is that case so significant?
Well, it's significant because Pennsylvania is a very close state. You know, obviously the media doesn't decide who is president-elect. That'll be decided by the Electoral College. The Electoral College depends on who won the vote in each state. So with Pennsylvania so close to the edge between President Trump and Vice President Biden, understand that we really know who won Pennsylvania.
Do you see this case going to the Supreme Court?
Well, it's already been, in a sense, to the Supreme Court. Justice Alito issued an order saying that all of the mail-in votes should be sequestered, that they should keep those separate and be able to look at those separately if they need to. I don't think there's going to be any success fighting with Pennsylvania over the date that the ballots actually arrived. There's enough questions about the post office and how long things took, that if the state makes a judgment that a vote entered, put into the mail, postmarked by election day that comes in several days later, if they're going to count that, I don't think that can be successfully challenged. But if there's any evidence that there are votes that were not made in time or that were not legally put into the mail by the right person, if that can be proven in court, then that could turn the outcome in Pennsylvania.
What does the president's team have to do to prove voter fraud in the other cases?
Well, there's a lot of different things they could do to prove voter fraud. They could prove that people were being intimidated when they voted. They could prove that the state allowed ballots to be cast by dead people or people who are not competent to vote for mentally or for some reason. To that up to this point, that's what's going to determine what happens in the courts. If it's just Alex, I won in a landslide in the legal votes and the rest are illegal. He can make that claim if he wants to, but there's going to have to be concrete evidence of some kind of fraudulent activity, some reason to believe that the ballots were not valid, and that could take a lot of different forms. It's just we haven't really seen a lot of evidence so far.
All right, Regent Law Professor and Associate Dean Brad Jacobs, thank you so much for your time. To you at home, we apologize for the technical difficulties that were unfolding during some of that interview. Despite the ongoing battle over the presidency, the Republicans had several other bright spots in the election this year, including a major victory for the pro-life movement. Mark Martin brings us this look at the new Republican women who were elected to the House of Representatives and what's being called a stunning blow to a pro-abortion agenda.
In January, at least 14 new Republican pro-life women will take the oath in the House of Representatives. That number will include 7 Congresswomen who defeated Democrats in last week's election.
We attribute their success to the fact that life is winning in America, and regardless of the uncertainty in the presidential election, it's clear to see that life is not a losing issue this year, especially because we see an unprecedented number of pro-life women being elected to Congress.
Those newly elected representatives join 11 incumbent GOP pro-life women who won re-election. In a statement, SBA List President Marjorie Dannenfelser said, "These gains are a repudiation of abortion extremism and further evidence that life is a winning issue in politics."
And this is a diverse group of women who will no doubt stand up for the unborn. They come from various backgrounds. We have Maria Salazar, who was one of our endorsed candidates. She's a Cuban-American woman who understands the right to life. We have Yvette Harrell in New Mexico, who was newly elected. She is the first woman from the Cherokee Nation to be elected to Congress for the Republican Party.
And it's not just happening in the House. At least 6 will be part of the Senate in January, including re-elected incumbent Joni Ernst of Iowa.
I'm going to share my favorite psalm with you and let it be a reminder of how we can get through this difficult time. And my favorite psalm is Psalm 121, and it goes like this. I lift up my eyes to the hills, and where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth.
The founder and chairman of the nonprofit Christian ministry Liberty Counsel spoke out about the election, saying these pro-life women will bring new energy to Washington to preserve precious preborn children. This is another important step to making the womb a safe place again in America. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Potential good news on the coronavirus cases today. Pfizer says the early data signals its vaccine is effective against COVID-19 and it's on track to seek U.S. review later this month. We'll have more on this on tomorrow's edition of CBN NewsWatch. Coming up, are more Christians turning out to the polls to vote or less? We're going to bring you a look at that when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Christians of all kinds have been an important voting bloc in elections throughout United States history, but that appears to be changing now. Here to tell us more about this potentially important shift in American politics is Dan Andros of FaithWire.com. So Dan, you have a story on FaithWire about a new study involving Christian voters. Who's it from and what did it find out?
Yeah, it's from Pew, and it found a very disturbing trend here, Ephraim. And more than 360,000 registered voters were surveyed over. This is a long-term study over 25 years, including 12,000 registered voters questioned just in the last couple years. And what they found is that we have a growing trend of less Christians being registered to vote. 64% of all registered voters surveyed last year self-identified as Christian. That's down from 79% of registered voters identifying as Christian back in 2008. In the midterms of 2018, it was the first time in more than 10 years that Protestants and Christians represented less than half of all participating voters. Republicans who identified as Christians fell from 87% in 2008 down to 78% last year. And Democrats are plummeting. You have 73% identified as Christian in 2008, and that's only 52% said they identified as Christian last year. So we are seeing a stunning drop in the amount of Christians registered to vote. And a bigger issue there, Ephraim, is that it's not just the number of registered voters that identify as Christian. There's just less Christians out there. So forget the voting for a second. I mean, we got souls to worry about here.
Overall decline in faith in America?
The study doesn't get into the exact reason as to why behind it. They just go over the pure data. But just from my view here, you look at culture and how it's just overwhelmingly stacked to a secular sort of agenda. You've got education system, you've got Hollywood, you've got media, you've got even sports now getting into this. So you're just seeing a steady drum of this viewpoint being pushed, obviously social media as well. So you combine all those things and maybe we're starting to see it take root.
So of course the big story today is the election. Do most Americans believe God's hand is in the presidential elections?
Yeah, this is a pretty stunning number as well from Pew. Only 1/3 of Americans believe that God's hand is in the presidential election. Only 27% said the same thing in 2016 when President Trump was elected. So that's a particularly stunning number because it must mean by necessity, because of how low it is, that some Christians believe that as well, that somehow this election was outside of God's hand and that somehow it was out of his power or he otherwise was unable to impact it. As Daniel says, chapter 2, no ruler rises or falls apart from his hand. So I think that's something we can take solace in and should take solace in as Christians, that God is in control no matter what situation is going on.
Absolutely. Dan Andros of FaithWire.com, thank you so much for your time. I want to remind you at home that you can watch FaithWire on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time this evening. Still ahead, there are 65,000 victims of child sex trafficking here in the United States alone, and now traffickers are targeting Christian girls in particular. We're going to bring you their story and a look at who's working to protect them when we come back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Sex trafficking is a worldwide scourge, and at least 65,000 children in the U.S. are victims. Now, a chilling new reality. A growing number of these girls are Christians, as predators are targeting them in particular. Chuck Colton has their story, plus how 3 U.S. Marshals are working to protect them.
The numbers keep coming week by week. In Ohio, a joint operation between federal and state officers recovered 35 at-risk missing children. A similar operation rescued 39 missing kids in Georgia. Behind all this success, a unit of the U.S. Marshals Service, the Sex Offender Investigations Branch, is made up of only 3 men working overtime to save as many kids as they can.
When I assumed this position as the branch chief of this Sex Offender Investigations Branch, my eyes were opened. There's over 430,000 missing kids a year in our country.
Of those, at least 65,000 are victims of the commercial sex industry.
We're trying to have an impact. We're trying to do the best we can with the resources we have in place.
Ongoing riots and violence against federal courthouses in Portland and elsewhere, however, are taking agents away from this important work.
But it's a zero-sum game. In order for us to deploy these resources, it detracts from other mission sets that are often equally as important. Our leadership is very passionate and supportive of this initiative, and we're trying to throw as many resources as we can to make an impact, but the reality is we're just scratching the surface.
These operations are also complicated because those rescued need special care.
Historically, we're cops and we catch bad guys, but we're catching good people now, we're catching kids. What resources do we need to have in place? Because it's not as simple as just turning this child over to somebody. And so we spent a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of talking with our partners, with Children's Hospital, with DCFS, with social services, to get these resources in place.
It takes an incredible amount of work to track down these monsters who are preying on America's children. And since the defund the police movement and the COVID crisis, a lot of police departments around the country just don't have the resources to do that. And that's where the body of Christ comes in. There's several ministries out there that are now packaging up the information that cops need and passing it along. One of them is All Things Possible Ministries, Victor Marx's outfit. His new chief operating officer is a guy that I went to Ranger School with like 100 years ago.
There are 150,000 new sex ads a day in America. They need help on the front end, identifying the victim. They need that level of probable cause, reasonable suspicion. That's what we offer law enforcement. So we figure out who those girls are that are being sold, potentially who their trafficker is, and we push that information to law enforcement to take action. And then they will conduct an operation, a sting, and they will confront that girl and offer her a new life, a path to freedom.
And what they find is often chilling.
There are particular traffickers that will target Christian girls to get the small potatoes, to get the girl who comes from a broken, abusive relationship. That didn't stroke his ego. But for him to be able to pluck a pretty young woman from a Christian family in the suburbs and turn her out to be trafficked, that was an ego boost for him.
The Trump administration is taking action to put a stop to these heinous crimes.
Today, I'm happy to announce that the department is awarding over $100 million in grants across the country targeted at human trafficking. And these grants are going to support state, local, and tribal jurisdictions, victim service providers, task forces, and key research initiatives.
Being on the front lines makes these men realize law enforcement isn't the ultimate solution.
We, as believers, we have to do a better job of protecting our young women. Parents have to talk to their daughters very candidly about what's out there, especially in this Christian bubble that a lot of us live in. We don't fully appreciate the evil that's out there and the evil that's trying to work its way into our lives.
We as a society need to look at this large number and start deploying resources and asking questions as to why there are so many missing kids. What are the underlying issues? And it's only then that we can address those and stop these high numbers. We're very happy about our recoveries, but there's a much larger problem that needs to be addressed and addressed holistically.
From Washington, D.C., I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Coming up, the world remembers Alex Trebek, the legendary Jeopardy host who died this weekend. We're going to hear just how much the show's fans meant to him when we come back. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
And finally this half hour, remembering Alex Trebek. People from all walks of life are paying tribute to the Jeopardy host who died Sunday at his home, surrounded by family and friends after his battle with pancreatic cancer. Some calling him the best at what he did and a legend. In a nation often divided over so many things, Trebek was universally respected, and he told ABC earlier this year the show's fans meant the world to him.
They are the most important elements in my life outside of my family and friends. I can't help but be touched by what they have to say.
Alex Trebek hosted Jeopardy for 36 years. It began for him when the show was brought back in 1984. He won 5 Emmys and the prestigious Peabody Award. His final episode of the show will air Christmas Day. Alex Trebek was 80 years old. Time now for your Monday motivation, and today I leave you with this thought. In the face of all the political fighting and infighting, people are hurting, and their healing is not found in politics. The medicine they need is in the love of God extended in the hands of believers. Now's the time for God's church to rise up and reach out. The call is loud. In fact, it's an alarm. We must wake up, hear it, and answer the call. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online, of course, at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us at the address right there on your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make it a marvelous Monday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.